Israel has reportedly attacked an Iranian target in Iraq, the fourth such known operation in the past several weeks. Several explosions erupted in a militant installation belonging to the powerful Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF, or Hashd al-Sha'bi in Arabic, an Iraqi state-sponsored umbrella organization that is predominantly composed of Shiite militias that receive most of their training, logistical support, and operational directives from both Iran and the Lebanese proxy Hezbollah, including the commander of the elite Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, General Qasem Soleimani. According to Iraq's Civil Defense Ministry, yesterday's explosions devastated several of PMF's bases and warehouses near Balad Air Base, which is located some 80 kilometers, equal to a little under 50 miles north of the country's capital, Baghdad. An Iraqi military source revealed to TV7 that the targets of the attack were several weapons caches that sustained devastating damage. Witnesses confirmed this statement, reporting that the massive explosions caused stored rockets to fly into nearby farmland and into the Balad base itself. Shortly after the incident, Iraq's defense minister, Najah al-Shamaghi, visited the site, during which he told Iraqi state television that several blazes that erupted after the explosions had been put out. He further noted that some military personnel had suffered minor injuries. It is important to note that the Balad Air Force Base hosts U.S. military personnel and Western contractors, yet thankfully there were no reports of injuries among any Western forces. While there were no claims of responsibility for the attack, informed sources in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv confirmed to TV7 that Israeli units were involved in clandestine operations against Iranian targets in Iraq. One of the sources also noted that all of the Israeli operations are conducted in full coordination with the United States. That said, he refuted any coordination between Moscow and Jerusalem regarding Iraq, emphasizing that the Russian-Israeli coordination mechanism is meant exclusively for Israeli aerial operations in Syria, with the sole aim of assuring deconfliction. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu alluded to yesterday's attacks in Iraq shortly before returning from Ukraine to Israel. Netanyahu told reporters accompanying him that Jerusalem will act and currently is acting against Iran wherever it is necessary, while underscoring that Iran has no immunity anywhere. Also, prior to his return, the Prime Minister addressed members of the Jewish community of Ukraine, during which he argued that the foundation that brought about the inception of the State of Israel is first and foremost faith in God.
העם שכמעט חרב, ששחטו אותו ללא רחם, העם הזה היום עומד בראש מדינה חזקה, איתנה, מתקדמת, משגשגת. תרגמתם? כן? ואני אגיד לכם בזכות מה. קודם כל, בכוח האמונה. קודם כל, בכוח האמונה. כי בלי האמונה שום דבר לא חשוב. בלי האמונה לא היינו מחוללים את הנס של תקומת ישראל בארצו.
The Israeli leader further insisted that in the face of death during the Holocaust, many Jews prayed for Israel's deliverance and the nation's salvation, which was manifested from their faith in God. Netanyahu also reiterated his dedication to his weekly Bible study that is held at his residence in Jerusalem every Saturday, urging ultra-Orthodox Jews to read beyond the weekly Torah portion and expand their studies into the entire Old Testament, which Netanyahu emphasized remains relevant for today.
וכל שבת, כשאני קורא את פרשת השבוע, אני לא עושה את זה בשבילכם. אני לא עושה את זה בשביל בחירות. אני עושה את זה בשביל האמונה. ואני קורא את פרשת השבוע, ואני קורא את ההפטרה. אגב, אני מעודד אתכם לקרוא מעבר להפטרה. אני רוצה שתקראו תנ"ך גם. אבל זה ויכוח שיש לי עם חבריי בציבור החרדי. אני קורא את התורה ואת התנ"ך, אני יודע שאתם קוראים את התורה, תקראו גם את התנ"ך. איזו עוצמה כבירה יש שם, של העם שלנו. איזה דברים שהם כל כך אקטואליים.
Now to New York, where U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged the international community to work together with the United States to thwart the Islamic Republic's malign activities, which, according to the top American diplomat, has brought about devastating humanitarian consequences. Speaking at a United Nations Security Council meeting on Middle East peace and security challenges, the state secretary singled out Iran as the main instigator of regional instability, while accusing the Ayatollah regime of fully investing into a campaign of extortion diplomacy. The main publicly acknowledged reason for Pompeo's UN Security Council appearance came in light of the nearing expiration date of a UN-imposed arms embargo on Iran, as well as travel restrictions on key Islamic Revolutionary Guards figures. As such, the American Secretary of State urged the international community to work out how to stop Iran from being what he termed as unshackled to create new turmoil.
We are already tracking very closely the JCPOA provisions expiring in October of 2020, namely the UN arms embargo and the travel restrictions on Qasem Soleimani. The whole world is able to track them too. We now have a countdown clock on the State Department's Iran webpage. Time is drawing short to continue this activity of restricting Iran's capacity to foment its terror regime. The international community will have plenty of time to see how long it has until Iran is unshackled to create new turmoil and figure out what it must do to prevent this from happening.
It is important to know that despite Washington's efforts, the Council has not and is unlikely to take any action on Iran. European powers have been scrambling to salvage the faltering nuclear deal, while diplomats claim that Russia and China are likely to shield the Islamic Republic from any action. Elsewhere in New York, U.S. Special Representative for Iran and Secretary Pompeo's senior foreign policy advisor, Brian Hook, announced in a press briefing that in light of repeated refusals by the Ayatollah regime to negotiate, the United States will once again ratchet up its economic sanctions with the aim of driving up the costs of Iran's malign behavior.
Iran, over the last few months, has rejected diplomacy too many times. And as a consequence, we are focused on intensifying our economic pressure campaign to drive up the costs of Iran's malign behavior.
Meanwhile, in Canberra, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that his country's Navy will join the US-led coalition to assure freedom of maritime navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. During a special press conference, the Australian Prime Minister announced his government's decision, which he underscored as an enhancement of existing and long-standing Australian contributions to counter terrorism and piracy.
The government has decided that it is in Australia's national interests to work with our international partners